Rail Up, the Future Mobility podcast with innovators and leaders of the ecosystem. Presented by Sebastian Sperker.
My guest today is Enno Wiebe, the General Director of the European Rail Supply Industry Association, also known as UNIFE. We will be talking about the major project shaping the rail industry, as well as exploring innovation and the key challenges ahead. So let's dive in and welcome one of the most passionate and forward-thinking leaders in the rail ecosystem. Welcome, Enno. We will start always with the same question. Enno, you see yourself rather an innovator or a leader?
Hi, Sebastian. Well, good question. I've actually been given both tasks here in the association from the membership. First, to renew the association, but then as well to lead the association. And it was particularly important for the members to establish a fresh communication for the association. And for me, personally, it was very important to form a new team arriving here now a year ago, with which we can meet the challenges of the rail supply industry and with fresh new energy actually to meet the institutions. I believe, and that was actually the mandate as well given to me, that the rail supply industry based here in Brussels with its association needed a new impulse on the European stage. And I'm very happy actually to give it to it.
Before we dive in, I think you're the first guest who are, or actually the second time like in my podcast, because we met first time at the Global International Safety Conference, where we had a discussion on a panel discussion where you were my guest. So I'm really honored that I have you again here in the podcast, but now exclusively. And I remember at the time when we had the panel discussion, we stopped, or the last questionnaire was about what inspires you to work in the industry. And maybe as the podcast ended, let's start our conversation today. So Enno, what first inspired you to work in the rail industry, and more important, what keeps you motivated today?
Well, actually, I want to say that I spent my entire life already in the railway system in the wider sense. I've been working for 25 years for the railway operating community, and I decided to have a dramatic change in my life when turning 50. That happened this year, actually, and I was looking for new challenges in my life. I was still committed to the railway sector because I love this sector. For me, it was the moment actually to change. And now I'm getting a lot of good feedback from the members and other parties, third parties as well. And well, let me say, I see after this first year of real hard work that it's gradually paying off. And what motivates me to come back to this part of your question, it is actually to get better step by step. So I'm very ambitious for this association. I'm very ambitious for the rail supply industry to be its voice here in Brussels. It's an amazing job, I have to say, and that is really inspiring. It's not easy. It can be pretty hard, but I love it.
Yeah, to love your job is certainly a strong foundation for enjoying your work and driving the industry forward. And today we will be focusing on the railway supply industry because when we talk about innovation in this sector, it's often the companies within your association that are behind, and that's the member of UNIFE. So please explain our audience about UNIFE, the members and the goals.
That's actually a question I often receive, and it is very important to make the distinction actually in the railway sector or for the railway sector between the rail operating community on the one hand and the rail supply industry on the other hand. And I'm representing the rail supply industry, that is UNIFE. It's the European Rail Supply Industry Association. We are based in Brussels, and we are representing actually the European players active in the design, manufacture, maintenance, and refurbishment of the rail transport systems. We have approximately 130 members, and we have quite a lot of SMEs as well. So I find this composition actually very, very interesting here. A compilation of big players as well as small players, because this is how the industry looks like. And that's the big difference actually to the rail operating community, where you have, let me say, a pretty similar harmonious structure in terms of the size and interest. Here it is a completely different approach, a completely different business model. That makes it really interesting. And to support the work, because I said we are a European association based in Brussels, focusing mostly, almost exclusively, I would say, on the European level. We have friends and partners to support us at national level, because we have to cope with both. And here we bring together 12 national rail industry associations based in the respective companies, and bringing together the national actors as well. And that's a quite good exchange between us to cope or to cover both the European as well as the national level.
Great. And with that, you have already answered one of the key questions. So startups and smaller rail tech companies are also part of the UNIFE community. And during a recent panel discussion, I heard a rather provocative statement that stuck with me. While the rail supply industry is profitable, the rail operating side is struggling financially. And so with that contrast in mind, do you believe that the current structure of the rail sector in Europe is fit for purpose? And are we truly on the right track to position rail as the backbone of sustainable mobility?
Well, you mentioned the first thing already. It is actually the cooperation between the rail operating community and the rail supply industry. I think it is of utmost importance that these two entities, and it's not just actually two entities, let me call it two pillars, work closely together, because in the end, unlike, for example, the road sector, the maritime sector, or the aviation sector, we are in a single technical system. We completely depend on each other, because technically, actually, this railway system brings us together. This is, I think, a great opportunity, but on the other hand, it's a very big challenge as well. And this is part of my mandate, actually, because I said it beforehand. I come from the rail operating community. I spent 25 years of my life in this community. So I do believe I have a quite good understanding of the colleagues. And this is quite important, actually, to bring us together, and not to see actually what divides us, but in this system, what brings us together, why we are together, and how we can help and support each other. And that's quite important, actually, when you think about the future as well, how we can improve this railway system, because it should not be in silos, that one side develops a strategy and the other side develops a strategy. It should be really a common thinking, because this common thinking then will lead into a joint migration strategy. And I think that's the only way forward, actually.
What is your take on what is the current situation, right? Because like I love to run a marathon. So basically, if we talk about the 42 kilometers, like in order to synchronize like these two players, like where we are right now today.
It is a highly fragmented market. So we are a very small market, but we are extremely fragmented. When you see just the number of associations we have in Brussels, I think it's almost 12 railway associations, each of them having their own vision, having their own way forward. This is something we need to overcome, actually. And I think here it is the most important thing to work together. But then where we are, that is the crucial question. And I think it is a system that has been neglected for quite some while, regrettably. I mean, there are positive examples we see, especially in the Alpine region, if I may say so, where significant investments have been made for decades. But we see as well the country where I come from, Germany, where there are parts of the system being really neglected, but we can have a look all over Europe. So there is a need actually to significantly invest to further develop the system. And I would say actually to make a leap forward here for the railway system. We are celebrating 200 years of railways with the opening of the first line. It was 1825 Stockton-Darlington in the United Kingdom or in England. And now 200 years later, we should have a look at the system. And I think it is evident that there is a significant need to invest.
And if we talk about investments, where the investments are actually needed in the rail infrastructure, in the rolling stock, interoperability?
If you ask me, I would love to see a breakthrough actually, and I would love to see a complete new and modernized railway system, both in terms of infrastructure and in terms of rolling stock. But we need to be realistic as well, because we will only be allocated a certain amount of money, and we need to carefully plan and handle this money. So we need to have a look actually, where are our priorities? What should we do first? And here for me, there is a strong need actually to invest in the infrastructure and to invest in the signaling system everywhere where components actually are outdated. For the signaling system, we have a lot of national signaling systems still in place, being decades old. And here we want to strive towards the European Rail Traffic Management System, ERTMS, because that links us as well to interoperability. If we really want to have interoperability, if we really want to run trains cross-border from one part of the union to another one, that requires significant and major investments in our infrastructure. And I think that would be a starting point. And then, of course, to make this system attractive, we need to invest in modern and interoperable rolling stock that is attractive for customers, but that allows cross-border services as well. So it's a staged approach. We need to be very careful with our money, where we put it, and we need to set priorities, because Rome wasn't built in a day either, and that applies to the railway system as well.
Fully agree. But I mean, because as you said already, you have experience, say, on the both sides. But the topic about interoperability to really run ETMS, to get in Europe, to have the one European railway area. I mean, that's really big words. And since I started back then, 20 years ago, more or less, we had already the same agenda. Yeah. So basically, there are a lot of initiatives already on the way. We are on the way. But really, to make the big jump, what needs to be changed?
It's, of course, an evolution. It's a gradual approach. We are a system that runs 24 hours, 7 days per week, and 365 days per year. We cannot just simply close the system for 2 years and then just do all our major work. I mean, we need to be realistic in this respect. And all the major upgrades, actually, I want to quote the Riedbahn, actually, this is a gradual thing. So work is gradually done. It needs to be prioritized, actually, because we are still running the business around it then. So that's the first thing. What needs to be done is actually, I think we have to, and that's my call to politicians, we need to sincerely believe in our railway system, and we have to sincerely bring this forward now after. So to make, as I said, to make this big leap forward and this big renovation campaign after 200 years, it is not enough to talk about it on a Sunday. Actually, we have this expression in German, Sonntagsreden. After that Sunday, on Monday morning, we have to be realistic again. We have to come up with our planning, and we have to come up with a sound allocation of sufficient budget in this system. And we have to invest in this system continuously and without interruptions. We have examples in the system where we started big programs, but then we didn't finish them, or it took us several decades actually to complete this. We cannot continue like this, to be honest, if we believe in railways being the backbone of mobility. No, there we have to be a bit more serious, I want to say.
I think one way forward is also to talk about innovation. I think that's what's definitely changed if you compare it 200 years ago. So we definitely have new technology which we can use. The toolbox is much bigger, yeah. And talk about innovation, like as far as understood, also for UNIFE as a one big part of the columns you have is also research and innovation. Can you tell me a little bit more about what UNIFE is doing in this respective?
Well, actually, that is one of our pillars, innovations. I always say we have, as rail supply industry, two major pillars actually that define our competitiveness, and that is firstly the quality actually of our products, and then secondly, it is the innovative power. So for us, this is of utmost importance to be innovative. Actually, we are a very innovative sector. This is what we should not forget. And the rail supply industry is very innovative as well. What I love to say, and this is what I'm particularly proud of actually, that I'm allowed now to work for the sector and to represent this sector, is that we as European rail supply industry are market leaders for rail products. In particular, for example, to take ERTMS. This is what we should not forget, and this is what I'm particularly proud of. Nonetheless, it is never rest on your laurels. We have to move on. We have to further invest. We have to work together. This is why at the moment we are making this call to continue the successful work of Europe's Rail Joint Undertaking, because if you snooze, you lose. And that means we need to move on. We need to be innovative and bring, I hope this is heard now, bring the products we develop faster to the market. So to remain world market leader.
That's definitely when we talk globally, I think whenever we're talking about like technology, it's very often like I mentioned in Europe, because we have a dense network, we have together passenger and cargo, and this more or less requires different technologies. And as you said already, like the Joint Europe's Railway Undertaking project, and also I guess you have a good overview about the members. Can you just like pick one or two examples where I see that's really cool innovation, what the industry is already bringing to the market, or is at the moment working at it beside like the big buzzwords like ERTMS, ETCS, or the DAC? Can you just give us one, two really cool projects?
I think I can lean back now because you already gave the answer to your own question. If you
Beside.
have if you have a look at the work of the ERGU, which we very much appreciate, I would like to start with the last one. Actually, you
Okay,
mentioned the digital automatic coupling. I think that is one of the major outcomes here of the European DAC deployment program. And I love this, and I say it with a very holistic view actually on an implementation. And that's what, for me, it is a blueprint, or it's a pilot for other large scale projects, because we do not only throw a device on the market. No, we really integrate a device into the market, into the business, with specifications of the device, with a migration strategy, and all of this being accompanied by a strategy or thinking on financing and funding. That is something where I would say that's a lighthouse in terms of the approach, in terms of the methodology. Another big issue is, of course, the activities the ERGU has recently more or less recently picked up. It is the FRMCS, the Future Radio-Based Communication System. There is still a lot of work to be done. So the same actually for the digital automatic coupling. But if you want to hear two good examples, I would say that is the DAC and that is the FRMCS. And the most important thing, you can criticize everything, of course, and we heard critical voices as well. But the most important thing, and this is why I believe in this ERGU, is that ERGU actually brings people together. And then I come back to what we discussed before, the two pillars of the rail operating communities and the rail supply industry. As a little bit breaking silos, can be a bit painful from time to time, but it's really forcing people to work together, and I think that's the way to success.
if I just listen to you, you're super convinced that the DAC will be implemented and used in Europe.
Oh, that's a tricky question. I would
What to
say,
say?
what to say now?
Yeah.
I would love DAC to be implemented, actually. I think that is a leap forward for rail freight. I would love to see our sector being innovative in this respect. I said some minutes ago that we are world rail market leader. I really believe in this. But that's why we should be courageous actually to take this step. In Europe, we are for rail freight services in particular, we are still using the screw coupling, and this is something we started with almost 200 years ago. Now, after 200 years, I think we all deserve some refreshment actually for our big birthday party coming up. I would love to see this DAC, and I would love to see this actually showing the innovative power of our sector, and that both for the rail supply industry, of course, producing it, but showing as well to freight customers that the railway freight market is now restarting and that there is a bright future for them.
Yeah. If you talk about the DAC project and how to develop the DAC, I think most of the people also inside the ecosystem of rail would agree with your statements that, yeah, it's a really good project. A lot of expertise is working on it, and we're developing something which is needed. But I think what is always or very often pointed out in a critical way, that the one is that it's already today very complicated to just make test runs in every country to enable that. And the second one is, of course, the biggest one is about the funding. Who should pay at the end of the day really for the upgrade of the wagons? Yeah, and then you can ask yourself, if the funding is not clarified, yeah, and if most of the parties involved said, if it's funded, I'm absolutely okay and I love it, but unless we haven't that decision made, I cannot tell you anything if I implement it or not, that this core question was not or is not, at least to my knowledge, really clarified and clear to all the members and stakeholders in the project.
Perhaps there is no final answer yet, but I mean it's part of the business, and of course it requires some courage to invest into the future. This is of course a message I give to the rail operating community, but I have a clear message as well to the institutions, and that's both the European institutions as well as our member states. If we really believe in the future of rail freight, and that links us as well to the question of the military mobility, then we do have to significantly invest, and that requires perhaps to put some money on the table as well, perhaps even a larger chunk of money, and to bring this system forward. And we have to, and that's very European, we have to come to an end with the discussion. Perhaps sometimes just a breakthrough or a little bit of courage, a little bit of more courage, I would say, would help us. We Europeans tend to discuss a lot. We Europeans see often just the negative side, and we make endless assessments of risks. But in a business, I think sometimes it's just good to move forward. If our ancestors 200 years ago would have come up with similar risk assessment studies, honestly, I don't think they would have ever opened Stockton and Darlington in 1825. They were really courageous. So guys, come on.
Yeah, then let's talk about one of the fundamental challenges in the rail sector, the long life cycles of the rail assets versus the extremely fast pace of technological development. I mean, take a locomotive, for example. It's designed to operate for up to 40 years. But just think about how much the world has changed in the past 20 years. I mean, smartphone didn't exist at the time back then. And so how can the industry bridge this gap? How do we ensure that rail vehicles such as logos remain future-proof and compatible with the evolving technologies over such a long lifespan? I mean, I imagine that this must be one of the key challenges the sector is facing.
I think that's actually one of the biggest challenges we are facing, or let me say we have to face, because on the one hand, of course, we want stability in our products that can be then bought at lower price. But on the other hand, we need to keep pace with the technological innovations and developments, and it's going incredibly fast. I mean, you see this with your mobile phone, I would say, almost on a yearly basis already. So that's of course quite challenging for us with our very long life cycles, because that is the huge difference between a locomotive and a mobile phone. But coming back actually to what we discussed before, research and innovation, I hope to find a lot of answers here from the research and innovation field. We are investing quite a lot of money in the research and framework programs. We have some very bright heads here. And I do believe that in ERGU we will have some good answers, and I do believe as well that in the hopefully set up successor of ERGU, we will find even more bright answers to the digital evolution. But I admit it's one of the biggest challenges actually.
And to overcome the innovation challenge, let's say it this way, is there a global rail supply association?
I mean, there are several, let me say, platforms where international research or developments, in particular for rail, are of course carried out. But research and innovation is, of course, one of the core elements or one of the core pillars of the competitiveness of the European rail supply industry. And of course, it's about our competitiveness. It's about the development and the sales of our products. So I think everybody would understand that we like to keep this rather European. Nonetheless, we do not close our eyes if we find innovative solutions abroad. Then, of course, there is let me say, there is a certain sympathy to collaborate. But for Europe, I can tell you to manage a collaborative research project, or even more a collaborative rail research program at European level with so many different cultures, approaches, languages, ideas, is already quite a challenge. So let's not reach out for the stars. Let's be a bit realistic. And I think we are in Europe quite well set up. And I think we have a quite good format.
Some of your members are acting globally, right? I mean, there is, I don't know,
Indeed.
for example, Hitachi, who already implemented back in 2015 the auto hole in Australia, and also obviously Siemens and all the other. Do you also see that there is an exchange of innovation and technology on a global scale as well? Or is Europe really, from the norms, so specific that most of the solutions are very like designed and adapted to the European market? Or is there something which we can use globally?
Well, actually, I would phrase it the other way around, actually. The idea, of course, from our industry being a world market leader is, of course, to sell actually or let me say, to export, firstly, our regulatory framework together with the regulations in force, as well as the standardization. And then, let me say, following right behind the products we have. And here, I would like to take the ERTMS example. I would love that ERTMS is rolled out actually globally, because not only because I'm selling it with my members, but I believe as well it's a very advanced system, in particular when we, of course, compare it to Class B system, but as well when we compare it to other systems actually worldwide. So I think that's a good market argument here, and I would like to see it from this side. The Commission is helping us quite a lot in this respect. For those who are aware, there is a Global Gateway initiative with focus on several regions of the world. Well, regions of the world in the Commission's mind is actually continents. So we have, for example, Latin America and the Caribbean, we have Africa and Asia. And these are markets we have identified where we would, with the help of the Commission and hopefully pretty soon with the strong support of the European Union Agency for Railways, promote our technical framework, our legal framework for railways, as well as standardization products. And then, as I said, to follow with good products and with projects.
Yeah, but that's a really like a cool story for the Europeans to say, okay, we do have one industry who is really exporting worldwide technology, etc. Because if you read the media in Europe, you can get the impression that we lost the battle or like the competition in the technology in big fields everywhere, right? But as you mentioned it before, like the rail supply industry, it's a global one, and like really with a strong focus from Europe to export globally, and that's a cool thing.
Exactly. But I mean, we have to be honest. There are sectors actually where we are lacking behind. And when you have a close look at the Letter and Draghi reports, that's a big wake up call. That was a big warning. But I have to say again, the rail supply industry is well positioned. We are well in the market. We are leading the market, and I think we are doing well. This is what I can say. And this is where I can proudly say, actually, that the headlines of desperate industries actually lacking behind does not apply to the European rail supply industry. Something to be proud of. But as I said, it's not time to rest. You have to constantly catch up with the market evolutions and research and innovation and its respective quality.
Yep, absolutely. And basically, you already built me the bridge to my next question. So I think one topic which, at least according to the media, we're lacking behind is AI. Yeah. In Europe. So what is your take on which role AI plays in our today's industry, and looking to the future, what is the role also in the future?
Another big buzzword. I mean, I always say
Yeah.
there are no meetings in Brussels, and apparently there is no podcast in the world without the Letter and Draghi report in artificial intelligence. I really like it. Well, we give that's a important topic for us, and we give great importance to artificial intelligence. Um, but we believe as well in the human factor. I mean, the railways is a system of many, I always say, enthusiastic people dedicating their lives to it. And that will continue to exist. I think we will make the best use of artificial intelligence, but I still have great respect, of course, for the colleagues working there 24 hours and 7 days per week. And we must find the right and the appropriate balance. Here we have a lot of things, I think, where artificial intelligence can make our lives easier, where it can facilitate processes, where it could help us for testing, for example. So let's make best use of it. I don't think that artificial intelligence will one day run the entire railway system. I think it will be supportive, because in the end, I think, and this is what I say with the greatest respect for my colleagues in the system, it's still a system based built on very enthusiastic human beings who really live for this system.
Yeah, this I can just underline. Do you see any disruptive technology emerging in the companies on the market which we haven't heard so far? Is there any cool things where you said, okay, this can be a big, cool solution for the future?
Oh, if I may say, then I don't like the word disruptive very much, because because disruptive is something, and that is quite important for the railway sector. It's a gradual evolution. It's a step-by-step implementation based on a migration plan. Disruptive for me would be, okay, we are closing the system, we are changing the system, and then we are reopening the system, brand new, revolutionary. But that is not how railways work. And this is, I think, sometimes why people are getting frustrated, that things are not moving as fast as they would love to see it. But that is in the nature of a system. You can't run a system 365 days per year, and then just to revolutionize it between Christmas days and New Year. For me, you mentioned two buzzwords. I would even not reply to this question to you. Are there any other technologies? Because for me, it is important that we prioritize now. We have, I can give you a long wish list of the rail supply industry to be implemented, or issues, items, products to be implemented by the rail operating community. But the point is that we need to be realistic. I think we need to prioritize. And if I may ask us collectively to prioritize something, then it would be ERTMS. Let's start it. We've been discussing that for many, many decades. The network is regrettably still a patchwork. I think it is not satisfying what we have achieved so far. We have to take it seriously now. We have to invest. We have to implement. And if I may make one plea, then let's go for ERTMS for this significant upgrade. And Doug, that's what I said already, but perhaps I sound like a broken record now. The courage actually to make this leap forward, to make this implementation, and to put the money on the table and say, okay, now we believe in our railway, and in particular the freight transport on rail, and we invest in it as well.
Okay, it's really so good to hear, like, to finish like the projects what we started. One of our last questions of today, but probably you will get, you will give me now the same answer. It's like, if you were the European Commissioner for Transport, what would be the three priorities? We already heard ERTMS, I guess, to push it forward, or like what would be the priorities?
Well, that sounds a bit like the question, Enno, if you're in Disneyland, what would you do? So let's take the railway system is Enno's Disneyland for a year. Well, I mean, as my heart beats for railways, I would put it, of course, I would put railways on top of my to-do list. It would be my absolute priority, and I would really take this statement, making railways the backbone of European mobility. I would really make this as my real leitmotif. I think I would, if I could, take as much money out of MFF as possible, of course, to overhaul the railway network. Working on eliminating bottlenecks, because I think there are a couple of bottlenecks, and then making, I think it's a common wish, true, the cross-border connections. And this is where I would put a lot of focus, connecting European capitals by rail, and then hopefully seeing in a couple of years, or my wish would be even sooner, to see people moving from aviation and road to rail transport, at least between the capitals as a starting point. It would be my dream to see Berlin-Warsaw being offered as a super service like the Eurostar service between Brussels and Paris. I would love to see Berlin, Prague, Vienna, Budapest being connected, and whenever people choose to go between two capitals, they just say, okay, I take the train, because that's my natural choice. It comes first in my mind when I wake up in the morning.
That sounds really great. So Enno's Disneyland wish. So, and I guess you also book, even if it costs more, the fast lane, right? to not queue up in a way. And actually, like, I planned not to talk about it, but basically, you already started more or less my question. Like, in order really to get what you said, like, not to take the plane anymore, to take the high-speed train. I think we already talked about that at the moment, the high-speed train, or the distance between cities where, I don't know, we can reach between 4 and 5 hours, which is like the normal distance which people are willing to go with the train. It's limited to a certain degree, because we do have also capitals who are having a bigger distance. What about the topic of Hyperloop? Is any of your members dealing with the Hyperloop, and do you believe that this will be part, or could this seen as a part also in the railway industry, in your opinion?
I mean, we follow the discussions of Hyperloop, and I have a close look, actually, what Hyperloop is doing and what they are presenting. But again, I think we need to prioritize. We have started with ambitious projects. We have the 10T network, we have the ERTMS rollout. Let's finish perhaps one thing before we just start another one, or before we get lost in too many activities in parallel. I said it already. My heart beats for railways. I would love to see a strong 10T network with all its harmonized features, including ERTMS. So I think I gave a clear answer to you now.
Yeah, then let's stick to Enno's Disney World. Enno, it's truly inspiring to see such passionate and enthusiastic people in the rail industry. And for me, it's clear that, and you with your words, that UNIFE and its members, you're helping to shape the global rail ecosystem for the better. So really thank you very much for these encouraging messages. And yeah, let's be bold together and turn Lighthouse project into reality. It was a pleasure having you, Enno. And welcome to the Rail Up Club.
Thank you. My pleasure.
The ball is in your court. What is the next step to drive change?
We must be serious about it.
Which superhero do we need to avoid the climate disaster?
Let's not look for superheroes, or let's not wait for the superheroes. I think that we have to become ourselves the superheroes, because we have to understand that climate change is man-made, and it is in our hands actually to make this world we live on better.
What's the takeaway from this episode?
My key takeaway is that on the 25th September, we will celebrate the 200 years anniversary of the Stockton and Darlington Railway, the world's first public railway. And now, 2 centuries later, the time has come for the railway system to receive a major upgrade. We already see powerful lighthouse projects leading the way, such as ERTMS and the DAC, which are shaping the ecosystem for the future. But as Enno rightly emphasized, we also need courage, clear prioritization and a strong collaboration from the rail supply industry to rail operators and of course political decision makers. I found it actually interesting that UNIFE represents a diverse membership from large global corporations to mid-sized companies and even startups. This brings innovation into the heart of the European rail sector. It was also great to hear that Europe's railway supply industry is a global leader. But to maintain that leadership, we must continuously push for innovation and focus on delivering key projects. Only then we will look back and realize 200 years after the first public railway, Europe's rail system has taken its next big leap forward. Let's think big, act bold and shape the rail ecosystem for the better. That's the spirit of the Rail Up Club.
This podcast connects innovators and leaders worldwide to shape the future ecosystem of rail. Rail Up by Sebastian Sperker.